Hey, what is going on, guys? XpertFusion here, and today we are doing a very special video that I've been planning for a while, and it's going to take me a while to actually put this thing together. But what it is, it's actually my explanation of the timeline for the Walking Dead Telltale games. So, what I mean by that, I mean I'm going to take the series of the Telltale games, all three seasons, and I'm going to put them in kind of real life dates. So, like, if you were wondering when this takes place, when specific events take place, and how far apart certain events are from each other, that's what I'm doing here. So I've seen many videos of this for the TV series, people putting it together and stuff like that, and I haven't seen it for the comic book universe. I'm not going to be talking about too much about the comics, but I am going to be talking about the game, which is part of the comic book universe. But I will say a few things in terms of relation to the comic books with Rick and the group in the comics, because there are a few events that are interesting to know when they take place in correspondence with the game. So, starting off with day 0, the first day of the apocalypse is actually July 18th, 2010. So, in the comics and in the show, or not the show, but the game, there was no actual date given out. They haven't given out an actual year. That's what I mean, a year for when this whole thing takes place. And the reason why I'm using 2010 is because Fear the Walking Dead actually confirmed that in the TV show universe, at least, that the apocalypse did start in July of 2010 because Travis put on a grave for somebody 2010, that someone died in 2010, because Fear the Walking Dead takes place right at the beginning of the apocalypse, and that is, of course, in 2010. And that's also when the series started, when the Walking Dead original series started, 2010. So everyone just, that's kind of what the date is as used. And the reason that we don't have it in the comics and the show, I'm just going to go with 2010 as the time when it started, just to kind of keep it corresponding with the TV show universe, even though they're in completely separate universes. It's nice to just have them somewhat corresponding, so you can kind of compare as to how far they are in specific events in the show and how far they are in the comics and stuff like that. So it starts July 18th, 2010, and that's like day 0. That's like kind of when people start, hearing on the news, getting scared, getting freaked out, because that this is, people are dying, people are getting, killed by people who are crazy and biting people and stuff like that. And people are kind of scared now. And this is way after Rick gets shot in the comics. He's in the coma right now at this point, so that's good to know. Then we skip over to July 20th, which is like 2 days into the apocalypse, but it's still calm. It's still, people are still calm. People are still thinking it's going to be okay, and that it's not going to be like the apocalypse. It's just some kind of a sickness going around a few different states of the America and stuff like that. But July 20th is the day when Lee is in the cop car. It's actually the morning. The night before was the night when he actually killed the guy that slept with his wife, which was a senator of the state, I believe. Not the state, it might have been of the area. I don't know. I think it was a state senator. He killed him, and this morning of July 20th, he is being brought to a police station, and then he's going to go under trial and stuff like that. And he's chilling in the cop car, and then they crash into a walker, and Lee, gets hurt. And this is the same time when he meets Clementine. He climbs over the fence, meets Clementine. And depending on the choices, this can be different, but it'll still end up being somewhat similar. And the choices can change the dates, which can get confusing, but I'm just going to go with a specific choice just to follow it. So this choice is if they decide, because you could go out the day, you can go out looking for people on that specific day, or you can sleep overnight and then go looking the next day. That was a choice. But this is if we go the first day, we don't stay the night at Clement's house, and we go straight out, and we end up meeting Sean and Chip. I believe his name's Chet. No, it was Chet or something like that, on the road. And we go to Herschel's farm. And Herschel's farm, the next morning, we meet Kenny because they come out of the barn. And it's July 21st. We meet Kenny at the farm, and this is when Sean dies. He gets bitten, and they're kicked off the farm. Herschel kicks him right off the farm, says, "Get the fuck off my farm."
Get the fuck out of here!
And then we get the group heading to Macon. So this is all happening in the same exact day of July 21st. They meet Lily and her family and everyone else, like Carly, Doug, and Glenn at the drugstore. They get there the same day, and obviously shit goes down. A lot of stuff happens this night, and it ends up with them getting to the motel and staying there. Now we get a time skip of 3 months and 2 days, so it's a pretty big time skip for the most part. And throughout this time, stuff, it was kind of chill. They were just hanging out, stuff like that, at the motel. And it is now October 23rd, 2010, and this is when episode 2 starts. So Lee is hunting in the woods, and obviously shit goes down with the teacher. He gets his leg trapped in the thing, and you can chop it off. And then they head back to the motel, and they end up meeting the St. John brothers. And then they go to the St. John's brothers' house, and Mark gets eaten alive, and they find out they're cannibals, and shit goes down. So all on October 23rd, that all happened. From hunting in the woods all the way to leaving the farm, leaving the St. John's dairy farm, and then stealing the supplies that they find in that car in the middle of the woods. All happens in the same day. So episode 2, Starved for Help, happens in one single day. Then we get a time skip of a week, skipping to October 30th, 2010. This is when episode 3 starts. So Lee and Kenny were, searching for supplies in that little town area. And in the same day, the bandits attack back at the Motor Inn. And that night on the road, Lily shoots Carly because she was feeling suspicious that she might be the one giving the other people supplies. All happens on October 30th. And then October 31st, which is Halloween, I believe, I'm not 100% on this. It could be the day before, it could be a few days before, but I believe this is Clementine's birthday. It's one of these days. Her birthday is one of the last days of October. And you know this because in the final episode, he says Clementine just turned 9. And you'll see when that happens, but that would, kind of show that Clementine turned 9 a few days before that event, which I believe is October 31st. Could be October 30th, one of those days. But this is around the time Clementine turns 9 years old, if you wanted to kind of put that into perspective in any way, shape, or form. And October 31st, this is when they reach the train in the morning, and they find out, Duck is bitten, and that whole same day, a lot of crap happens. The same day, Duck and Katja dies, so they move on to, they meet and Krista, then they make it to Savannah, they meet Molly, they find the mansion, and Molly tells them about Crawford and how dangerous it is. And that same night of Halloween, they attack Crawford, and they go in, and then they end up returning home in the morning. And literally the whole episode of the half of episode 3 and the full episode 4 takes place on October 31st of Halloween. So that's pretty crazy. And then in November 1st, when they return home with Vernon, they return in the morning after they went to Crawford. Omid doesn't move, and they were getting scared and stuff like that, and he ends up moving. And Lee gets bit this morning of November 1st, and this is kind of episode 5, when episode 5 starts, and he realizes Clementine's stolen, or she's lost, and Lee ends up finding her with a group or without a group. All that happens in November 1st when they, go looking for Clementine on November 1st, and Lee finds Clem, obviously, kills the dude. I believe his name is like Adam or something. And he ends up dying on November 1st, which is pretty crazy to think about because you really don't think about that. It happened 2 episodes after Katja and Duck died. But in relation to real life, Lee died only a day after Katja and Duck died, which is pretty crazy to think about. And really only 2 days he died after the bandits attacked and Carly got shot and stuff like that. Like, all that happened in 3 days, which is pretty crazy to think about. Because you really don't think about that when you're playing the game and you see the different episodes go on. You don't think about the dates, but when you really think about it, it's like, damn, that's pretty crazy. And the next morning, November 2nd, this one Clementine finds Omid and Krista in the distance. She goes off, and that ends that. So, now we have Season 2. And we get a huge time skip. Not a huge time skip at first. At first, it's a pretty big time skip, not a huge time skip. But then we get a huge time skip later on. So first things first, it's a time skip to July 7th, 2011, which is a couple months, not too long. This is the day when Omid dies. Chris is pregnant. They get to that little thingy. Omid gets shot by that lady. This is on day 356, by the way. If you wanted to know what day it is of the apocalypse, it is day 356. And she dies, and it's pretty sad, pretty shitty stuff. But on day 400, which is August 20th, 2011, this is the 400 Days DLC. All those events that happened led up to this day when they were at the campfire. And they were chilling at the campfire, and Tavia came across them if you played the 400 Days DLC. And that was day 400. So day 400 is August 20th, 2011. And then after the events of Omid dying in July 7th, 2011, we get the fucking massive time skip all the way to November 1st, 2012. So this is not only a year, but it's a year and a couple months. It's like a year and like a half of a time skip. Clementine is now 11 years old at this point, and we see her at the campfire with Krista on November 1st, and Krista ends up getting lost. We don't know if she died or not. We still don't know to this day, which is pissing me off that we still don't know to this day if she survived that or not. And then she gets lost, and then Clementine gets chased after those people, and she gets lost in the woods. She falls in the lake, and then she wakes up on November 2nd in the morning, and that's the day she got bitten by the dog. She came across Luke in the group and got locked up in the shed by them because they thought she was bitten. And that night she goes looking for supplies, and then she wakes up in the morning, November 3rd. She's like, oh, I'm still not bitten. And that morning, Clem decides to go with Nick and Pete to the lake in the woods, and they end up getting, shit goes down. They find that dude in the woods, and other crap happens, and it goes to shit. It goes to shit. And then they go back home all November 3rd in the morning. They get back to the house, and then other people go out to look for Pete in the woods. And Clem is home alone with Sarah. They come across Carver, and then they realize they have to go. So they go with everybody, and it's kind of a week time skip to November 9th, 2012, where they're traveling in that time period to a safe place. And just something you might want to know, we knew season 3 took place in between All Out War and A New Beginning from the comic book storyline. Surprisingly, season 2 also took in place between that time period. Everything happening here is after All Out War in the comics, because this is day 846 right now, on November 9th, and it was around the day 600s. I'm pretty sure, like when the All Out War happened. It was like April of 2012. That was around the time when All Out War was happening, and this is after that. So it's pretty crazy to think about that even season 2 took place after All Out War, in between A New Beginning as well. And so next up on November 9th, that night they make it to the lodge, and they meet Kenny, come across Kenny, and Carver attacks all that same day, or that same night, and captures them. November 10th, 2012, they are taken to the Howe's department store, and they're put to work and stuff like that. November 11th, put to work again, and Carver kills Reggie on November 11th, and that night they decide to actually make a plan. November 12th, they get different jobs. Carver beats in Kenny's eye when they try to come up with something else, and that specific night of November 12th, they specifically escape and kill Carver. And that's when, Sarita dies and all the other crap happens. And November 13th, that morning, some of the group makes it to the Civil War site. After they find Nick dead as a walker, they get Sarah back from the trailer camp. Rebecca has her baby the same night. They sleep at the deck for the night. And they actually sleep at the deck for, I believe just a day, is it? Yeah, it's only a day. And it's November 14th now of 2012, and they move on and they come across the Russians, so with the Arvo and all them, and they obviously shit happens. Rebecca turns, people get shot, and they end up killing all of them except for Arvo. That night they rest at the power station in the woods, and in the morning, November 15th, they continue on and they come across the lake. Luke dies through the lake, he drowns. They get to the house and they sleep there for the night. November 16th is a pretty chill day. They just chill at the house and not much happens. And that night, November 17th, they wake up and then all the crap happens. Kenny goes crazy. And the night of November 17th is when Mike, Bonnie, and Arvo leave and they shoot Clem. Well, Arvo shoots Clem that night. And November 17th, Clem wakes up November 17th. That was 16th before that. That was the night of November 16th, leading into November 17th, which is when Clem wakes up in the car and the fight happens between Jane and Kenny, and you shoot. We're just gonna go with the Jane, the Kenny ending where you let Jane die. So Jane dies, and then it's a week or two goes by. November 28th, 2012 is when they actually make it to Wellington itself, and they're told they can't stay, but Clem is allowed to stay. We're gonna go with that ending, that Clem is allowed to stay. And what happens on the time of a time skip, we get a year later on December 23rd, 2013. AJ is taken by the New Frontier. No matter what choice you make in the end, this is when Clementine comes across. She already came across the New Frontier in this time period, but this is when AJ's actually taken. And then a huge time skip to November 1st, 2015, which is like 2 years of a time skip, or like a year and 11 months. And Clementine is now 14 years old, so this is obviously season 3, and season 3 only takes place in November. That's all it takes place is. Same as season 2, it just takes place in 1 month, and it ends around the end of November when Clementine says, I'm going to find you, AJ, and boom. So I'm not going to go through all the dates in season 3 because there's really not that many dates. It's a pretty quick season. It goes by in a week or two, and I don't really feel like going through it, to be completely honest. It's just it kind of goes by day, night by night. It's not something that's difficult to understand. But the other seasons, that can be kind of difficult with the time skips and stuff like that. And you might not know when they take place. So that being said, season 4, when the final season comes out, you'll know it takes place 2015, or at least that's where they left off, was November in 2015, which is nice to know. The show itself is actually only in 2012 right now in terms of the real life times, which is pretty surprising. But other people already do timelines for that show. If you want me to do a timeline for that as well, I will. But let me know in the comment section below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Peace out.